Welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the CEO and founder of Senior Savvy, and you can find me right here every Tuesday talking with people who are engaged in the age tech innovation space. It's a great place to be, and the technology is constantly innovating. And before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors, ProCare. So in the care industry, if you don't have strong labor management, you don't have a business. If you aren't reaching out to a trusted HR partner, you can start to experience high turnover, HR, clinical fines, uncontrolled expenses, and low resident satisfaction. ProCare HR is the only HR solution exclusively serving the care industry. And if you're ready to get control of your labor management, reach out to ProCare HR at procarehr.com. And with that, let's go ahead and run our intro. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I want to go ahead and invite my guests on. I have an expert panel today to talk about the developments in telehealth. And boy, oh boy, so much has happened in the past couple of years to really propel telehealth into a place where it wasn't a couple of years ago. So first, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests. So let's, hello, Kristi, please say hello to our viewers here on Tech Tuesday and tell everyone who you are and what you do, please.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Kristi Leisinger, and I'm the CEO and principal of Copperleaf Consulting Group. And I work with a lot with strategy and innovation with startup medical device and telehealth companies and new companies coming into the markets of healthcare. And I'm based out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay. All right. And next up, I have a returning guest, Ravi, Balla. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. Please introduce yourself and share with us where you're at with telehealth.
I'm Ravi, Balla. I've spent the last decade and a half basically working in senior living. And my story kind of reads like the story of telehealth in many ways. We started a company thinking that we were going to change the world of senior living using all of these new technologies of virtual health, and then discovered that there was no way for the information to get from point A to point B. So I kind of we became what I call digital plumbers, to go back and work on the infrastructure to make sure that we can get signals from one point to the other. And we'll talk more about some of the challenges that are still ongoing in telehealth.
Digital plumbers, I like it. That's the first time I've heard that. Thanks, Ravi, and welcome back. Dr. John, welcome to Tech Tuesday, and thank you for wearing yellow today. And please introduce yourself to our group and talk about your telehealth experience, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Abbie, for having me. My name is Dr. John Kosmeh. I'm the president of Senior Virtual Health LLC, based out of North Carolina. And we are a new cutting-edge technology startup company that is focusing on reducing unscheduled transports and reducing 30-day readmissions for skilled nursing facilities. By actually taking advanced technology, integrating that with telehealth, and creating a virtual health platform that allows us to perform things that are normally done in the ER that you would have to send a resident out for. We're now able to do that at bedside and see that in real time. So 12-lead EKGs, point-of-care ultrasound, lab work, ENT exams, full ER exams, we're now able to do virtually at bedside using the skilled nurses that are in the facilities. So we've been able to nationally get a reduction of 98.6% on unscheduled transports, and to date have completely reduced and eliminated 30-day readmits.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. And then I also have Dr. Gupta from Tembo. Please explain to us what you do, and welcome to Tech Tuesday. I'm thrilled that you're here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Abbie. Thank you so much for the invitation. Again, my name is Anurag Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Tembo Health. Our mission is to keep seniors healthy, happy, and at home. We've had the honor of working with multiple national senior living operators across the country for the last few years. Where we provide kind of a wraparound virtual dementia care model. We work with patients, families, caregivers, primary care physicians, to really bring in that additional layer of dementia support and expertise from social workers, therapists, nurse practitioners, psychiatry. We've also developed our own 24/7 emergency medicine platform to really help reduce those unwanted ER transfers and hospitalizations. And excited to be here and join the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, in the past couple of years, so much has developed and grown and really morphed into a different type of care model than we were previously used to. And so I want to ask Kristi, if you'd please talk to us about what the status was of telehealth prior to 2020.
Sure. Prior to 2020, telehealth was present, not as widely used, but because they ran into connectivity issues, they ran into just very few devices that were actually remote patient monitoring devices that were out there in the market. And they also ran into reimbursement and regulatory issues and roadblocks, and it made it very hard and challenging. And it was just, it was there as an option. Obviously the first, best it was to see a physician or specialist in person. And that's kind of been the traditional way for, since healthcare started. But there's a lot of changes. We speed forward 3 years, and year to date now, we have multiple medical devices that are available in the home for the patients to use, even the senior care market, multiple different technologies that are out there that were never even developed before COVID. So COVID really has driven the entrepreneurship of a lot of startup medical digital health technology companies. New ways of doing diagnosis, and of course, adding in AI and artificial intelligence into the mix is helping the physicians then to treat their patients much at a higher level and doing it remotely instead of in person. Just like, John mentioned and Dr. Gupta and even Ravi talked about, how, that senior care market is such a physically challenged market normally, as getting the patient to and fro, reimbursement issues, readmission dates. All of these, come into play when you're looking at how do you treat that patient and how you keep them healthy and how you keep them in your home. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of startup medical companies now are seeing that benefit. And we have, in our medical deserts, we have clinics, physicians, we have hospitals and healthcare systems that are shuttering their facilities because they can't afford to keep the facilities open. So we have medical deserts now that are being created that have never been there before. So how do you treat those patients that are in that medical desert? How do you treat those patients maybe that have never had healthcare since the day they were born? How do you manage that kind of patient and get the healthcare that they need? And
I'm learning a lot from you guys. Medical deserts. We'll have to talk about that sometime. Medical desert. Okay. So yeah, it's, telehealth has changed so much in the past couple of years. I know for myself, but when I'm working with my clients, we're talking about things like patient portals, for instance,
exactly,
that would have challenged them so much prior to COVID. Like, they have been eased into it. And for the majority of my students will say that they actually prefer now to do a telehealth appointment than leave and wait.
Convenience. Yep. Convenience to that patient. And most of the time the patients are communicating electronically with family. They're Snapchatting. They're 80 years old and they're Snapchatting and they're doing email and they're on Facebook and all these other social platforms. So really the ease of use is much easier for those patients now than what it would have been pre-COVID or even before, 10, 15 years ago, because we didn't have the technology on the social side that they can now use to benefit their own healthcare.
Yes, and they're so much more familiar with it. I know there were so many students I worked with one-on-one, helping them get onto their for instance, their Mayo Clinic portal, right, during the summer of 2020. But now it's just like getting on a bike and doing it, and they don't think twice about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now I want to ask, Ravi, who does telehealth support the most?
Everybody, I think. When you talk about your students who are young, who don't have mobility challenges, but still the convenience of basically getting onto a portal or getting onto a video chat to go ahead and have a diagnostics is great. And for people that have mobility challenges, which is, again, a large part of the senior living communities, that's always a big thing. I think I read one of the most critical elements in the social determinants of health, a factor that determines whether or not you comply with the treatment or not is whether you have mobility to get to the doctor's offices or not. That's the biggest factor. And if I find, I can see this with my in-laws. I mean, they're in the 90s. My parents are in their 90s. For them to get out of the home, to get to even an Uber or a Lyft, even if I were to get it to them, get in the car, go to the doctor's office, walk up the ramp to the doctor's office, is a challenge. If they can just sit in front of the screen, it's great. So it does make it easy for everyone, and it supports everybody.
100%. I know as a parent, it's so much more convenient to be able to have that follow-up appointment online than it is to take your child and then wait in the waiting room, and take that time out.
The one other thing I wanted to say, and I'm sure John will talk a lot more about this, is what we currently see in mostly implemented is televisits. I'm looking at this. This is a televisit of sorts. But I think what Kristi and John were talking about are things like this. This is a title care unit, and it's got an otoscope. And imagine you as a parent being able to show that to your doctor. We all have thermometers in the home. This is just a new version of thermometer that is digitally enabled and will make this whole televisit thing so much more powerful into more of telehealth.
100%. So let's talk about that, Dr. John. Tell us about those virtual visits that you were telling us about earlier using some of the newer technology, please.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I think Ravi and Kristi both had mentioned, telehealth is a great starting point. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is we're not a telemedicine company, we're a virtual health company. And when you think about telehealth, it's traditionally just a Zoom call or a screen meeting like we're doing right now. And Ravi said, when you start adding in those technologies where now you can start getting definitive diagnostics, now you're taking it from a telehealth visit into a virtual health visit, because now you're giving information to that provider where they can make definitive decisions on medical care and treatment. And that was our big thing when we really looked at the skilled nursing facility in the senior health environment. We realized there was just a huge gap in senior health care. And coming from 6 years in an ER, it was a traditional, just residents would come in from a facility, and our first thought is if they're here for something minor, let's say a minor UTI or just a very minor condition, I can tell you most ER providers, the first thing in their mind is I'm just going to go ahead and admit this patient, because if they're here for this to begin with and I send them back, they're going to end up back in my ER in the next 24 hours and I'm going to get dinged and I'm going to get a 30-day readmission. And there's all the financial burdens that go along with that, right? So you do the admission. Well, if it's a Medicare patient or a Medicaid patient, right, that's an automatic 3-day admit. And now that facility loses 3 days of day rates. They have to deal with the burden of a transportation cost from the hospital back to the facility if that patient doesn't meet medical necessity. So to be able to take technology and put that into a system where we can go into a skilled nursing facility or patients who are at home, like Ravi was just demonstrating, you're able to put that in your ear and you're able to see that definitive medical care information. So to be able to take an entire system and create an entire ER visit was our goal. So when we put that system into a facility now, we have the ability to do a 12-lead EKG, and we're seeing that in real time. So now you start talking about patients with chest pain. We can do a 12-lead, and we can see if that's a STEMI going on. Okay, well, so we don't see any elevation, we don't see any depression. What about an NSTEMI? So now we have the ability to do those labs and do that blood work within 3 minutes to get a troponin. We can do CMPs, and we can do ultrasounds of the lungs and the heart. All these things that generally people would have to go out to the ER for. Yep. Technology has advanced so much that we're now able to do that and incorporate that into that virtual health visit. So I think telemedicine now, although for many years was missing a lot, it was a great start. it has really shown us how we can advance technology to now create a complete virtual healthcare assessment and deliver that to the homes or to the facilities or wherever residents may be or patients may be, rather than having them, like you just said, Abbie, as a parent, if you're a single mom or a single parent, you have 3 kids and it's 2 a.m. and, you're in Michigan where there's a snowstorm going on, it's incredibly difficult to get people out to a hospital. But if you can have this type of technology and you can log on and virtually connect with the provider, I think that the level of care absolutely just increases for everybody across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Gupta, I want to ask you, how does Tembo fit this need?
Yeah, a little bit of my background. I'm a trauma physician with deep expertise in technology, and I got into this space of senior living and telehealth because of a just personal story. As my grandfather was aging, I grew up in rural Michigan. I'm based in New York now, but as my grandfather hit his upper 80s, he just needed more and more caregiving support, more clinical support, and I found it surprisingly difficult to find solutions for him to keep him healthy, happy, and at home, which is kind of where our mission statement came from. And that's really what spurred me to kind of launch Tembo. And from my perspective, I think as a kind of newcomer to the senior living space and senior space, simplicity is critical, right? Like it just has to be really simple, really easy, and really accessible. And that's really what we've strived on at Tembo. So from our platform, there's no software to install. There's no devices. You can connect with us seamlessly from literally from any device in the world. So whether you're on an iPhone, Android phone, tablet. Sometimes we joke, if you're on the space station, you can even connect with us. And it's all about communication and collaboration. And so, we make it a point to make sure that we have all the data possible about the patients who we're caring for. So we have all the data coming from their senior living operators, from the healthcare system, from their primary care physicians. And so that whenever we're providing care and engaging with patients, especially dementia patients, our clinical team has the best access to data possible. And in terms of that, on the collaboration side, when we do a telehealth visit, on average, we have 4 people on each call. We have the patient themselves, the bedside caregiver who often knows the patient better than themselves, because especially in dementia, if I want to know, like, hey, how did Jane Doe sleep last night? Did she eat breakfast this morning? What's her mood like? What's it normally like? The bedside caregivers, they're all day, every day, and they know those things. And then lastly, we always invite the family member to join every single visit as well. And more than 90% of the time, the family members do join those live telehealth interactions. And so for us, it's just been really incredible to be able to build an ecosystem that is just so accessible and inclusive, right? And I think because we're able to get those families in the majority of those calls, we're able to have much deeper conversations in terms of shared decision making, right? Because it's never a simple answer, right? If mom fell, do you send her to the ER? Do you not send her to the ER? There's a really complex set of evaluations, conversations. And if we're not able to have the right conversations with the decision makers, who are often the family members, it's hard to provide a safe environment to make these life and death situations. And so that's been really helpful to us in particular, just on the communication side. So I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but hopefully it's a good gist.
So you did a good job. And I also saw there was a comment that Christine sent in about, their parent not wanting them to be in the exam room, but did allow her to be on screen. So, maybe it just feels a little bit less invasive in that way as well. Have you found that too?
Yes, definitely. And I think in particular, because since we focus on so many dementia patients, we cover all seniors. We work with independent living, assisted living, memory care, health plans, primary care docs, but especially that dementia population, there's always this barrier to using technology. And again, because we have the caregivers and other folks who can easily access it, that's one thing. But then there's the trepidation of like, who's on the screen? What is telehealth? Is it a ghost? Is it a monster? We get all these weird interactions. But as soon as their family member joins on the call and they can see their son or daughter, they can hear their voice, it instantly puts them at ease. And we're talking about, especially for the urgent care visits that we're doing, it's often during a point of, injury or illness. And so you're already, your adrenaline's already rushing, you're feeling increased anxiety and so forth. And so by kind of plugging in those family members, we find that it's incredibly valuable for the patient, but I think even more so for our ability to make safe and effective decisions in terms of what to do next.
So much has developed and so much has transpired, but Dr. John, I wanted to ask you, what's missing in this ecosystem?
So I think up to now, the biggest thing that we're missing is the ability to make those definitive decisions by having all those diagnostics in front of us as providers for the residents and the patients that we're seeing. And to go with what Dr. Gupta was just saying, when I can tell you in the skilled nursing facilities, one of the biggest reasons residents gets transported out is because family members are afraid that they're not getting the full picture, and they feel much more comfortable with residents going to the emergency department. And to go along with what he was just saying, when that family member is on the call and has the ability to see the full assessment and talk with a provider and ask those questions and get those questions answered and understand what that treatment plan moving forward is going to look like, they're much more comfortable allowing those residents to stay in the facility and be treated there rather than go through the trauma, especially when you're talking about patients who are fighting dementia or Alzheimer's. That's a traumatic experience to leave that facility and have to go to an emergency department. So to be able to treat them and keep them there in the facility is a huge benefit, not only to the staff, but to that resident themselves and their family members. So to be able to bring in advanced technology and to be able to do all the tests that would normally be done at the ER that you would normally have to send somebody out for, or even a facility that's keeping somebody there, but say just wants to get, concerned with pneumonia. So they're, before would have to order a chest x-ray, right? Now we can do an ultrasound, and all the studies now are starting to show that ultrasound is much better at diagnosing pneumonia than chest x-rays ever were, right? So now we have the ability to do that. So even if a provider is primary care provider is in the facility, they have the ability to use that equipment, use that technology, get that ultrasound done at bedside or EKG done at bedside rather than having to call a third-party company to come in and do that. So I think up till now, what's been missing is just the definitive diagnostics that allow us to make decisions on medical care and treatment. And I think technology has now caught up with us where we have the ability to take all of that, put it all together, and actually treat people in home and in facilities now.
And changing those automatic protocols that we used to use, because we have the new tools. Everything was automatic. They came into the ER, they got the initial triage, order this, come back and see them in an hour. Now it's a whole different ballgame. It's quicker, it's faster, it's easier, it's less traumatic on the patient, like you mentioned, Dr. John. And it's, it's quicker diagnosis, for that patient and reassurance for the family that's with them.
Absolutely. So it's not only increasing quality of health for the patient, it's increasing quality of life for the patient.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's one of the things that we always say, and being able to keep those comfortable. And even on the staff members, when I talk to staff members, there's so many times that they tell me when they send someone out to the ER, they never really know what happens. And that's concerning to them because they become family with these residents, right? I mean, they're with them every single day.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to actually be the ones to deliver that care and use their skills that they have as skilled nurses, because we're giving them the tools to do that, we're seeing a huge increase in morale with the nursing staff as well.
And you get better compliance.
Absolutely.
Ravi, I wanted to ask you, Ravi, what would you like to see more of in telehealth development?
I would like to see an integration of a lot of these diagnostic tools and technologies with the primary physician interface. As far as I know, if I'm talking to you on this call, and as a physician, and there is a monitoring device in there, there is no way to really integrate it. If there is a monitoring capability that's there, that data isn't presented to me on a secondary screen. And I'll tell you this has been interesting for me to watch. Before COVID, my wife's a cardiologist. And so, before COVID, telemedicine use was minimal to non-existent. And right at COVID, it just kind of went up 15 times, 20 times, whatever it was. And now it's kind of back to maybe not exactly the way it was before COVID, but it may be 2x or 3x what it is. And a lot of that really has to do with the fact that these tools are good in an emergency. It isn't good for a long-term care capability because it doesn't do all of the things that an in-person visit does. And also the economic incentives are way different for folks. You're muted, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening. My son is home, so I just asked him to wait 5 minutes. That was it.
I can just add on to that in terms of capabilities and technologies. There's been a recent, push, especially on the technology side, to really enable more monitoring services from a passive or kind of an invisible perspective. And so, we recently, just about 6 months ago or so, launched what we're calling an invisible device. It's a small device about the size of a hockey puck. You take it out of the box, you peel off the sticker, you stick it on the wall above the bed, and you plug it in, and that's it. You're all done. And from that device, we're now able to collect biometric data on seniors or on any patient, really, including heart rate, respiratory rate, sleep quality, sleep duration data. We're getting about 250,000 data points per patient per month. And it's allowing us now, as we're learning from these devices and all the data that's coming in, we're able to actually start predicting early signs of infection, agitation, depression, trauma, and really start, kind of honing in on patients in a much more proactive way. And as you can imagine, with the dementia population, this becomes critically important because they're not able to communicate, how they're feeling or what's going on much of the time. And now we can take this objective data to intervene and communicate with caregivers and family members. And so really just kind of excited about this new mode of technology that's coming out.
I want to ask you guys, because a participant sent in a question about handling the disparity between equipment and diagnostic tools at different facilities. How do you handle that?
So I can tell you with our EKG, our EKG systems are the same quality that are in hospitals. So we have a full 12 lead capability. And as Ravi was just saying when he was talking about the integration, one of the things that we've done with our advanced technology is we actually do have that integration. So as our providers are watching those nurses, set up that 12 lead and place the electrodes, when we begin to record that 12 lead, that actually is on a second screen for us. So we're seeing that recording live. We're seeing that 12 lead live come across our screen as it's being taken. And then obviously they can print it out there at the facility as well, and it goes into the physician portal. So, the technology is so advanced nowadays, and I think that's one of the things that is really lacking on communication with the general public is, the advancements that all of these companies are doing. I mean, Ravi has technology that is advanced from just a year ago, and Dr. Gupta and the things he's doing with the dementia patients. All of this is brand new advancements and brand new technology that's coming out. And, Kristi probably is very well aware of it as she works with all the startups that are coming into the medical field. But the advancements in technology is fantastic. And I think there's, high quality grade technology out there. And it's just making sure that as these companies grow, they're using that quality.
Yeah. And it's so exciting.
The quality thing is, I'm sorry, the quality thing is a big issue. The consistency across the different devices is a big issue. I know that the Digital Medicine Society had a significant effort to talk about things like when you say somebody's falling asleep, what exactly defines sleep? Mm-hmm. When do you know that? When does the digital device know somebody fell asleep? Mm-hmm. And so there's a center at Duke University called the Big Ideas Center, which takes a look at a lot of the biomarkers, the digital biomarkers, and looks at which devices measure what digital endpoints and digital biomarkers, and are they consistent?
And Ravi, I think it goes back to your point you said a little while ago of that in-person encounter, right? I don't think any of us here are saying AI is going to ever take the place of that person being in there and communicating and having that human-to-human contact. I think that's that's important to be added in.
I will also tell you that the economic incentives today are such that it makes sense for somebody to come into the to bring a person into the office rather than do a telemedicine visit. And until we get parity on all of that, I think we're still going to see a drive towards an in-person visits.
Well, I want to thank you all for being with us today, and we had a lot of great participation in the chat. If someone wants to get in touch with you, Kristi, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The best way would be to use my LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn, or they can go to my website, and that's www.copperleafconsultinggroup.com.
Thank you. And Dr. John, how about you? What's the best way for someone to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can either reach me via LinkedIn on my LinkedIn site, or just send me an email at Kosmeh, that's Kosmeh, at seniorvirtualhealth.com.
Wonderful. And Ravi, how about you?
LinkedIn is the best way to get in touch with me.
Yeah, me too. And Dr. Gupta, how about for you? What's the best way for someone to connect with you?
I think our LinkedIn's were posted in the chat. So please follow Tembo Health there, and you can reach out there. And also our website is www.tembo.health.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for bringing your interest and your knowledge to this topic. And it's just wonderful to hear about all the developments. And I also want to thank those in the chat today for contributing to the conversation. It really helps to create a deeper insight. So thank you for that. And we will see you all back here next week.